After the trial has been concluded, then comes the stage of appeal. If your client is unsuccessful party to the action, you may want to consider appealing. The deadlines for this are tight and rules complex. So you have to comply and appeal into the court of appeal during that period of the deadline. Clients often find it difficult to understand that there is no right to appeal in most circumstances. The courts tend to think that if you have already had the benefit of court's resources once, then that is sufficient. There is though the need to ensure that justice is done and seen to be done, and you will come to appreciate the circumstances in which the lower and appellate court will give permission to appeal. The tests which need to be satisfied and procedures to be followed are quite strong in these cases of appeal. Maybe when new evidence comes up and it might change the course of the trial, then appeal shall be allowed in those cases. But those cases are quite limited. So after the trial has been concluded, then another stage is of the stage of enforcement. So if defendant has lost the case, it doesn't mean that he will comply with the uh, course of the action that has been given against him. So that is why the enforcement stage is very necessary. If your client is successful at the trial and gets a judgment in its favor, it does not necessarily follow that the defendant will comply with the terms of the judgment and pay any sum owed. We will therefore need to look at the various options and procedures to enforce the judgment of the judgment creditor against the judgment debtor, so that the fruits of your client's labor have not been for nothing. So after the trial has been concluded, the plaintiff could go if to the court for the enforcement if the judgment debtor is not complying with the decision of the court, and we shall discuss all of it in detail in the future lectures.